Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today, I'll be honest, we've had a bit of a nightmare. Technology has not been on our side this morning, and if you saw the community post, you know I've been struggling a little bit. This is the 6th, I think, attempt at recording this video. There's a chance the whole world doesn't even see this, because the file might corrupt again, in which case I can say it's something controversial. What should we go for? Ruben Diaz is overrated, there we go. Hope the internet doesn't see that one. Hopefully it does. Hopefully this video is going to export. I mean, even now this is being slow. Here we go. Today we are talking about Manchester United's 3-0 win in the Carabao Cup first leg semi-final against Nottingham Forest, away from home. Decent performance. So that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about the tactics used by Erik ten Hag. Apologies if I miss anything in the video. Like I said, I've recorded this several times, so I'm kind of losing track of what I've said. However, we're going to try to go through it in a sensible order. And we will start with the start, because it seems pretty logical. And Manchester United started the game pretty well. We can see they had a slightly changed starting 11 in the defence, but apart from that, it was a very strong team. And I thought United looked very good in the opening stages of the game, and that was because their shape exposed Nottingham Forest quite nicely. So the way that Forest set up was quite passive. They didn't have too much interest in pressing early on in the game. And in this kind of 4-4-2 diamond shape, it was quite easy for United to bypass them. The front two were extremely passive and dropped a bit wider. A bit like this, but the problem with this was that they weren't really marking the fullbacks, they weren't really marking the midfielders, they were just kind of existing, they weren't really doing much, so this was a poor approach from Forest. What this meant was that the centre-backs had plenty of time on the ball, and then they had plenty of options, because we could see that Casemiro and Eriksen were either side of Morgan Gibbs-White, which meant that for the first 20 minutes, United found it really, really easy to just play a straight pass from the defence into midfield, who could then turn because they had time. Now, yes, Freuler could occasionally come out into this area, but with Johnson not really doing much of a defensive job early on in the game, Malacia was also coming into these areas. Freuler wasn't sure who he was meant to be picking up. This hesitation meant that United could move the ball forward quite easily. And then, of course, as they're doing that, they have now created this 3 versus 2 situation, because again, Johnson is kind of doing this passive job up front, not really doing much defensively. United have got a 3 here, up against a 2 for Nottingham Forest, and Manchester United started the game really brightly, were causing a lot of problems in these areas. We, of course, saw that brilliant play from Marcus Rashford for the goal. What a solo goal. It comes from these lack of numbers in this area, and then also some poor defending. But United started the game really brightly and looked quite good down this side. United looked good down the right-hand side as well, with Wan-Bissaka kind of arriving to the attack a little bit later. However, still getting forward, providing the width, allowing Anthony to come inside, actually, which isn't something we see too much from him. Usually he's used as kind of the width option, a bit of an isolation winger. United get the ball out to him and play from there. In this game we saw him coming inside a little bit more, and this meant that he was far less isolated. And with Bruno Fernandes also getting in these areas as well, United had some good play early on and looked quite bright. However, as Erik ten Hag alluded to in his interview after the game, Forest changed shape, about halfway through the first half, and from a defensive point of view they changed into a bit more of a 4-5-1. With Scarpa moving more to left mid, Johnson right mid, Gibbs-White dropping deeper, and then Surridge alone up top. Now, what this is going to do is stop the overloads that United were creating. Because what we can see now, if we move these United fullbacks deeper again, is we can see that Forest are now man for man in these areas. So whereas previously Johnson and Scarpa were ineffective, now when United were coming forward, rather than the 3 versus 2 in this area, it's now 3 versus 3. And we can see that it's going to be the same down the right-hand side of the pitch as well. And actually, Gibbs-White done a really good job of stopping Casemiro from dictating the game. So this change halfway through the half from Nottingham Forest was pretty good, and caused a lot of problems for United, because it stopped them progressing the ball so easily, but also forced them into turnovers. I do think this was a night where United were quite sloppy in possession. Casemiro weren't at his best, Christian Eriksen certainly wasn't at his best, seemed to spend a decent amount of the night chasing his touch a little bit. I think he probably just needs a rest. But this meant that Forest could get into situations where they could win the ball, play the ball forward, and then they quickly looked to get men forward. Johnson, Surridge, Gibbs-White in particular, were often able to get themselves into a little bit of a 3 versus 3 up against the 2 United centre-backs with Casemiro just in front of them. And we know that Brennan Johnson in particular has really good ball-carrying ability. This caused a lot of problems for United's defence. And obviously United won 3-0, so it was quite comfortable. This game always looked like United were in control, but it looked like there could be moments where Forest were going to get a goal against a run of play on the counter-attack and get themselves right back into this game. United weren't killing the game with that sloppiness on the ball, that lack of quality. Forest always looked like they were going to provide a threat, and that came mainly on a counter-attack. Luckily for United, it didn't really amount to anything, and I do think that was perhaps more luck than skill. I don't think I thought Lissandro Martinez, to be fair, actually defended really well, but in general, I wasn't impressed with United's defending in these areas. However, eventually United kind of seemed to adapt to this change of approach from Forest and moved Eriksen a bit deeper at times, almost to form a back three in certain situations with Casemiro just in front. This seemed to give United a bit more of a grip in the game. And kind of as the game progressed, Forest were in more of a 4-2-2-2, with Gibbs White and Surridge the front two, Johnson and Scarpa the wingers. However, what we can see this is going to do is it's going to open up the middle of the pitch. And with Fernandes making runs forward, dragging Danilo, United were now able to kind of expose this central area. And I thought Weghorst done a brilliant job of dropping in this game. Now, I was talking about some of the other United players being a little bit sloppy. Not Weghorst. He was absolutely brilliant and completed 20 out of 20 passes in this game. And his link play, his work rate was brilliant. But what I liked more than anything about him was that, yes, he was dropping deep, holding up the defender in a physical battle, really showing his muscle, laying the ball off. But then, say the ball went wide, he then had a real hunger and desire to get into the middle. Literally, physically fighting centre-backs to try and get in the middle. And that was really good to see, that intent to get in the box, because that's where he knows the goals come from. And of course, we saw that for his goal. It came from Antony coming inside, which we were talking about earlier, with the width being provided by someone else. Antony comes inside, gets the shot off, falls to Weghorst, and it's actually a really good finish. But it all comes because he's in that area. He's sniffing around in a box. I described him as a poacher when I was talking about him tactically before he joined the club. This is what I was talking about. These goals, this is where he's going to get them from. He's not going to score goals from the edge of the box, but in and around the box, he looks really dangerous. And it's just something a little bit different, which Manchester United don't really have otherwise. And in general, I thought United looked pretty good. I thought they were always comfortable. I don't think this is a game which requires hours and hours of me talking through it, because it wasn't really a massively tactical game. Some games are decided by things like intensity, tempo, kind of old football cliches a little bit, like what team wants it a bit more, things like that, but also just the quality on the ball, on the pitch. This United squad has a lot of individual quality, and we saw that even from the substitutes. Let me just quickly make these changes. We saw Weghorst come off, we saw Rashford come off, we saw Eriksen come off, and we saw Antony come off, which allowed Garnacho to come onto the left wing. We saw Pellistri come onto the right wing, Fred into the midfield alongside Casemiro, and Alanga up top. And those fresh legs were ultimately what killed the game, but also a bit of quality. I thought Facundo Pellistri impressed again. Alanga done well to get his assist. In general, all round a pretty good night for United. Like I said, I don't think there's tons to break down tactically. We saw that Ten Hag's shape got the better of Forest in the opening 25 minutes of the game, got United into that 1-goal lead, which was really important in quite a difficult cup tie. I think people look at Forest and say, well, United are through. Forest haven't lost at home since September, so to beat them 3-0 is actually very impressive. And yeah, I thought United were good without being brilliant. They were kind of in first gear most of the night. But in my opinion, to play a cup semi-final first leg in first gear and to win 3-0 is pretty darn decent. I think Ten Hag will be pleased with the final result, if not always the performance. I think he will demand more, bit more quality on the ball, that ability to kill the game off, but then also in defensive transition he will want more moving forward. However, with kind of the fixture run that United are on, the fact that they've gone 2 games without winning, conceding in the last minute in both of those games, I think he'll be very happy to be back to winning ways. And hopefully this video has got to you guys. Like I said, loads of technical errors, so I can only apologise for that. Maybe you guys could subscribe to make me feel a bit better after quite a rough morning trying to sort this stuff out. But yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say for today's video. I don't want to go too much into it. I don't want to waffle too much. In general, United are pretty good. They will go through probably now. The second leg next week will be an opportunity to potentially rotate some players. We could see Casemiro coming out. Ultimately, score-wise, it couldn't have gone any better. United needed a win, a comfortable win, but also the ability to rest players. They got exactly that. And yeah, they won the first leg 3-0. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to say. Just quickly, actually, I do want to say one more thing. I said I might miss some certain things because of recording this too many times. One last thing that I want to talk about was Bruno Fernandes when he was coming forward, when Antony was still on the pitch. What I did quite like was that Antony wasn't as isolated in this game. I was saying about him coming inside. We saw Bruno Fernandes often overlapping him. And I thought that was quite an interesting little thing. We didn't necessarily see it lead to any massive chances, which I can recall. But by Fernandes overlapping into this area, especially on the counter-attack, it allowed Antony inside onto his left foot, and with more players around him, but also in tighter situations where perhaps quick footwork is more important than a burst of pace like it is out wide, Antony looked a lot more comfortable in this area. He's kind of been used, like I said, this season as an isolation winger out on the right-hand side. Moving inside, he looked a lot more comfortable. We saw some really good link play with Weghorst for one of the moves. It was Weghorst and Bruno Fernandes combining. And the third man run that Antony made was really good. He actually should have scored, yes, so people kind of are going to look at that as a negative. But I think what we should actually look at was the movement in that situation, the positioning he was in, the link play that he done with Weghorst and Fernandes. It was all really good. And yeah, just quickly wanted to add that. Like I said, apologies for this video. It has been a little bit jumbled. My head's a little bit jumbled because my laptop has been just a nightmare today. Hopefully I've got you guys a decent video. Don't hate me for it. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Again, if you could subscribe before you go, that would be greatly appreciated. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.